So let's talk about identity. Not the kind you get from a fancy degree on the wall, but the kind you have to build yourself, piece by piece, with your own two hands. We're going to get into a story today that starts at a pretty serious breaking point, but ends with a whole new sense of purpose. It's a terrifying question, right? You've got it all mapped out, you know exactly where you're going, and then poof, the road just vanishes. Everything you were working for is suddenly gone. This is a story about what happens in that moment. Okay, so picture this. We start with a student who seemed to have it all figured out. The path was crystal clear. Prestigious accounting and business programs at Christ College, Mysuru. I mean, this was supposed to be the launchpad for a guaranteed successful career. And at first, yeah, everything was clicking. The plan was working perfectly. The grades were good, the future looked bright. It was all going exactly as scripted. And then, just like that, it wasn't. The plan, the ambition, that carefully built path, it all just came to a sudden, grinding halt. What happened next wasn't just a slump. It was a total collapse. Health took a nosedive, communication became almost impossible, the world just stopped making sense. It was a complete shutdown that forced a step back from everything just to focus on one thing: recovery. And out of that incredibly tough time came this really profound lesson. We live in a world that's just obsessed with achievement, with always moving forward. But sometimes the biggest win is just keeping your head above water. Progress isn't always climbing, you know? Sometimes it's just not sinking. So after a period of counseling and recovery, a choice was made. And it wasn't to quit learning, but to restart it completely differently. This is where the story shifts from just surviving to actually actively rebuilding. Now, this was a massive step. Just think about it. You've lost so much confidence that even reading a book feels painful. But instead of giving up, the choice was made to jump into a brand new, supportive environment in a totally different field. That takes some serious courage. So this number, 75%, is really interesting. It's not some mind-blowing top-of-the-class score, right? But what it meant was huge. It was proof. It was the signal that said, hey, after all of that, I'm still here. I can still do this. It meant a path forward was actually possible. And with that little bit of foundation, that's when the real growth started to happen. In this new place, amazing mentors like a counselor named Sucheta and a lecturer named Nayana created an environment that was about real support and respect. This was about more than just grades. It was about rebuilding a person from the ground up. And wow, this just shows you the results of that support. You can literally see the confidence coming back in the numbers. From that first 75% to a 9.5 GPA, and then, unbelievably, a perfect 10 GPA, the class topper. The comeback was real, and you could measure it. And that success in the classroom started to spill over into everything else. He was made class leader. He started teaching his classmates, breaking down tough subjects for them. The person who once couldn't even communicate was now the go-to guy for everyone, students and teachers alike. A totally new identity was being forged. So everything's moving in the right direction. But then comes this one conversation, a real pivotal moment. It happened during a workshop with a professional, an IT firm founder named Ravi Kumar. So he shares his big dream of starting his own company one day, and this is the advice he gets. It's that classic, conventional wisdom, isn't it? That your value, your respect, it all comes from that piece of paper. A diploma? Nah, that's not going to cut it. But this right here, this is the heart of the whole story. That conversation made everything click. Respect isn't just handed to you because of a certificate. It's something you earn when you can actually do stuff, when you can build things, teach people, solve real problems, and just contribute value. So this wasn't just some philosophical debate anymore. Nope, it became a mission. This idea that skills, not just degrees, are what really matter, it needed to be more than just an idea. It had to become something real. And so the work began. Starting with absolutely no money, he launched a YouTube channel, Tech Classes, just to share what he knew. When that started getting some traction, he looked into platforms like Talent LMS to figure out how to build something bigger. And finally, on November 1st, 2025, the idea went live. And here it is, Skillverse Technologies. The name itself kind of says it all, doesn't it? It's the end result of this whole incredible journey, from a complete breakdown to rebuilding to creating something new that could help other people. And if you look at the mission, you can see his whole story baked right into it. It's totally inclusive for beginners, pros, and especially for differently abled learners. It's all about practical, hands-on skills you can actually use. And it got its proof of concept right away with its very first learner, Fasia Shaikh. I mean, that just says everything, doesn't it? The identity isn't tied to the program he left or the degree he never got. It's defined by what he created, by the thing he built to help other people. And this really brings us to the big takeaway here. Look, a degree can be great, it might get your foot in the door, but it's your skills, what you can actually build, solve, and contribute, that's what determines how far you actually walk once you're inside. And so that leaves us with one last question, a question for you. Think about your own journey, your own setbacks, your unique talents. They've all given you a set of skills nobody else has. The only question left is, what are you going to build with them?